Jai Hind to all. My name is Dhanshri Parihar, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Ajay Kumar Garg, Engineering College. And today my topic is uh, the Java Advanced Feature, Part 2, from the subject Object-Oriented Programming with Java. So let us start with the contents, the overview of this particular topic. So first we are going to discuss the annotations in Java, then the generic types in Java, what is the generic type, then the diamond operator, and the role of advanced switch expression in Java and the seal classes. So what is annotation in Java? As the name said, annotation in Java, the keyword which are marked with the @ symbol in Java are known as annotation. And what are the rule of creating some tag to be as a annotation, and what are the use of these annotation in Java? Annotation are generally an instruction to a compiler, Java compiler, a kind of instruction from a developer to a program, to a compiler, that if we are executing this program, the certain kind of restrictions are being used with this program. So kind of an instruction to a compiler before executing your program. So that is the role of annotations in Java. So annotation is not a part of a code, we can say. It do not change or have some, we can say, impact on the compilation of a program. But what is the role of annotation then? These are kind of an instruction from a developer to a compiler while before executing our program. So for doing this, let us consider some examples and check out that how many types of these annotation exist in Java and how they are being formed and used in Java programming language. So in Java, we are having two types of annotations, and these annotations are holded in the package annotation with the class name as annotation in a package lang of Java. And we are having two types of annotation. One is the standard annotation and one is the customized annotation. So standard annotations are also known as the built-in annotations, which are already existing in our Java programming language in their we can say packages or files. And customized annotation are the annotations which are being created by the programmer for its own purpose, for its own sake, whose definitions are not already existing in your, we can say, the packages of Java. So the the standard annotations of further of two types, general purpose annotation and meta annotation, which will be holding in java.lang package, means java.lang annotation package. So there are the name of some annotation: @ override, deprecated, safe, var argument, suppress warning, function interface. In this, we are having inherited, documented, target, retention, and repeatable. So today we are going to discuss these three: override, deprecated, and suppress warning, which are the general purpose annotation in our Java annotation package of standard built-in type of a standard inbuilt annotation in Java. So before understanding the annotation, let's have a look where this annotation is going to be used in our program. So the syntax is annotation. We can annotate a variable, we can annotate a type. Type means a generic data type, and we can typecast the annotation also. So in first syntax, what we are doing, we are putting the annotation name with the @ symbol in front of our data. Okay, this is the data type and this is your variable name, means the data which will be holding your data, and then we are putting the name of our annotation in front of that declaration of a variable. And in the next step, what we are doing, we are putting the annotation name in a generic data type. What is generic data type? Which is holding between this less than and greater than symbol. So I will tell you about this generic data type in a later session. So this is the generic data type syntax, and we can put this annotation in this generic data type also. And next, when we typecast a particular type, okay, implicit or explicit typecasting, and there we can also use the annotation during a typecast. So these are the three ways where we can use your annotations in Java programming. But in mostly we will be use this first syntax, that will be above some method, above some in a front of some declaration of some we can say variable. So this is the one of the example of how we can create a notation in Java. So in this example, there is a notation named as author. Okay, the symbol @ and the parameters of this notation include, this is the, we can say, uh, name as a, this is the value of this, and this is some data holding variable. So variable and its value. Okay, and this is the annotation, which is not a coding part of a Java program, but can be used above our class explanation. So this will be showing that wherever this author name and date is being used in the program, it will be declared to be Benjamin Franklin, and the date will be 3/27/2003. Wherever it will be used in the class. So it is a kind of an instruction to a compiler to know whenever the program is being executed, they will be holding the name value to be Benjamin Franklin and date. If it is not there, then some kind of warning or some kind of instruction is being issued by the compiler. So that check will be performed, and that instruction will be given by a developer to the, we can say, compiler before execution of the program, to ensure the flexible execution of our program. So let us have a look at the categories of annotation. So it is broadly categorized into 5 categories. The first one is the marker annotation. Then we have a single value annotations, full annotations, type annotations, and repeating annotation. So what is marker annotation? An annotation that has no method is called a marker annotation. Means that is not holding any method inside it is known as a marker annotation. And the example of these annotation are @override, @deprecate, and @interface annotation. So let's have a look at the @override annotation. So what is @override annotation? The override annotation assures that the subclass method is overriding the parent class method. So in simple term, we can say during the concept of this inheritance in Java, what we have some class A and we have some class B which extends class A. It means A is it's a parent class and B is a child class. So what it is ensuring, @override is ensuring that whenever method overriding will occur in a program. So how that method overriding is possible? Suppose I am having some method declared in the body of class A, which is a parent class, to be named as A. Okay, and the same method I created in our child class. I'm just making a prototype of it, not complete program. So in this case, what will happen? When we have same name of method in both parent and the child class, the child class method overrides the parent class method. It means that whenever we want to execute both the methods, the object will always call our child class method for execution, and this will be skipped in that is a method overriding concept in Java. Okay, so in order to ensure that our overriding is being held properly in your program, what we used to put @override annotation before our class like this, @override, and then we will start our class in a normal way, which will ensure and give a instruction to the compiler whenever such case is going to happen in parent and child class, that will be properly achieved. What will happen if I write it to be capital A? In this case, this capital A name is different from a small a, and no overriding is being occurred in the two classes. Overriding concept will be conducted properly in this class because the name of two methods are now become different. In that case, if I have given @override annotation above our class, it will give a kind of a instruction while we are developing, where a developer is writing a code in our coding form, and it will be coding the program for overriding a method. So a warning will be pop up, instruction will be pop up that the method name will be same as that of your parent class method. let us see an example. I have already done this example. So this is the example for this method overriding. What I have done in this, I have created one simple class named as parent class. Inside that parent class, what I have done, I have created a void display method which is public in nature, and printing a simple statement, we are in base class method. So I have created a child class which is named a child class, which is extending the parent class. So what I have done over here, I have put this @override annotation here to ensure that the two methods are being overridden. Again, I have used void display. The same method which is named over here is constructed again in the child class, and when I am executing my program by this class number 3, this class 3 is your main method class, and I'm making the two object in this uh, one object in this class for accessing our parent class or our child class and calling the display method, then the overriding will occur. Now what will happen, as I told you earlier, example of an override notation. This is a simple overriding program, overriding a method program in a concept of inheritance with our this annotation override. So here I have put it to be commented form. If I open this comment, the compiler will be popped out when I write this @override. Our instruction will be popped out over here that both the name, the child class name and the parent class name need to be same so that the overriding will be done properly. This is the screenshot of that pop-up message like this. When I write that I have written @override above my this method void display, what will happen? A particular pop-up kind of instruction will be open. Here it will be written that indicates that a method declaration is intended to override a method declaration in a super type class. If a method is annotated with this annotation type, the compiler required to generate the error message. Okay, if that is the names are different, that there will be an error. Why there will be error? Because we are giving instruction to a compiler. Developer is giving instruction to the compiler that this class is holding a method that need to override the parent class in any means. If that case is not existing in the child and the parent class, then there will be error during the execution of the program. Okay, so these are kind of we can say at the developer point of view, this kind of pop-up will be opening, and if this display will be a capital D, it will become capital D. When we are compiling the program, then the compiler will give this indication that there must be a overriding we can say concept in this particular program that is missing, and the developer is saying that we will have to ensure this. So that will be the kind of use of annotation in Java. That is a use of @override annotation in Java, which is kind of a marker annotation. Now the next type of annotation is suppress warning. So what is the role of this suppress warning annotation? Again, the instruction to the compiler to, we can say, suppress some kind of warnings. We want our program to execute in a flawless manner, and no warning will be issued during the execution of the program. After the complete this program will be completely executed, no kind of warning note or instruction will be given by the compiler, and only the output will be visible to the user. For that case, we will be using a suppress warning annotation. So there is two terms which we will be receiving in our output. One is your warnings and one is your actual output. So warnings are kind of an indication to the user, we can say user that executed the program, that this kind of issue may occur in this particular version, or maybe some issue or some problem will be there. So that is a warning that you should not do this, but still we will be receiving our output. If we want to suppress them, we don't want that warning to be visible to our user, we can use this a suppress warning annotation. So let's have an example for this. In this example, we have created a class test annotation, and we have inserted our this added suppress warning annotation with the message unchecked. Unchecked are the exceptions. So there are some unchecked exception we want to suppress in this program. If there are some exception warning is being created by the program that do not need to be displayed in the output screen by using this suppress warning. Okay, so that I have passed in this particular parameter. Now the program is created where we are creating a list of some names like Sonu, Vimal and Ratan. We are adding this Sonu, Vimal and Ratan to list named as list. This is the name of the list variable. Okay, by using the concept of this is array list is the class which will be holding the definition of this add method, and we are adding Sonu, Vimal and Ratan to this particular list. So simply we have created this list and we are just printing this list one by one. One by one element is printed. Sonu, Vimal and Ratan will be printed in the output. But what will be the difference between a suppressed warning annotation and without a suppressed warning annotation? Let's have a look at the output. With @suppress warning, we will be getting only the outputs Sonu, Vimal, Ratan, which is inserted in the list. Okay, and there will be no warning issued by this compiler. It is simply written that Java test annotation Java will be compiled and this will be the run program. But what will happen if I will remove this make it to be a comment part? What will happen in that case? So as we can see in this output difference, what will be happening? There will be a warning issued by a compiler. What is this warning? That Java uses unchecked or unsafe operation. Okay, and we are compiling this file with your unchecked details, and the output is Sonu, Vimal and Ratan. Still we are getting the output, but with two notes, with two warnings that this program is being executed. Okay, but without unchecked or unsafe operation is being executed. Unchecked exceptions may be there, may exist in future, may be existing. Okay, that warning will be given by the compiler when along with our outputs. Okay, but in the previous example, when we are having that suppress warning annotation in our program that will be written by our developer, we are simply getting the output. We are not giving any instruction or warning in our output. So that is the difference. That is the use of @suppress warning annotation for developer in Java programming. Next is deprecated, @deprecated annotation. Deprecated means instruction to the compiler that in this version, if we are using something and we are displaying some method, that is okay. But in next coming version or in next coming time, maybe this thing is not supported. So that kind of indication is being given by the deprecated annotation. So let's have a look at @deprecated annotation. Suppose I've created a class with the method m and I put the deprecated annotation above the method n. Okay, there are two methods m and n method. So it means that this method may or may not exist in a future programming. So that kind of instruction is given by the deprecated annotation. So when we execute this program by making one object and invoking the n method, let's have a look at the output. So after compilation, what do we get? It uses the override a deprecated API, indicating that this is a deprecated. I recompile with this and it will be giving our n. That direct means that it is a deprecated API. Means in future it may or may not exist in your this particular version or not supported by the next version. So that kind of indication is being given by the compiler. So after annotation, let's have a look at the generic type. What are generic? Why these are being used in Java programming? Okay. So what are generic and why they are being used? These are kind of data type we can use for safety purpose in our Java programming language. And let's have a look at this example. What is actually the mean to insert this generic data type in advanced Java programming language? So in this pseudo code, what is happening? We are creating an array list. Okay, we are creating a simple list and adding the element to the list. So array is popular for what? It will be having homogeneous of type of data. Homogeneous means a similar kind of data. Array is a homogeneous collection of data. If we see its definition, homogeneous means a similar kind of data it can hold. Okay, it's a kind of list that will hold only similar kind of data. But here, when the programmer is coding, making a code or programming our content, what mistake that developer is being doing, it will be inserting the value 101 and hello, which is two different values. They are not homogeneous data, they are heterogeneous data, and inserted in the same list named as array list and adding the content. So at that time, there will be no and not any issue when the program is creating a program, but during the compilation, the error will occur that the two data types, these two data will belong to completely data set and they cannot be the part of this array. So in order to remove this problem, we can say a tight kind of data type will be used in the Java programming language named as generic type, which will ensure that the type which is being written in our we can say program during the creation of an object will be followed by a particular variable when it is being inputted by the user or being created by a developer. That is the purpose of using a generic. Here we are having 101, that is integer value, hello, which is a kind of a string. So is array list is capable of holding two values? No, because one is integer and another is a string. So that is a wrong concept if we want to create an array. Okay. So for doing so, here this array list, we are saying that it is the object and it will be receiving both the values, integer as well as your string. By the concept of programming, that is not okay. We have written the program and we are executing, and one step after compilation is successful, but when we are going to execute it, the execution error will occur. So for doing so, for removing this problem in Java, generic types are introduced. So what we will be doing for removing such kind of problem? What were we doing? Just putting a generic type in front of our object, okay, and we are using this symbol and putting this type inside it like this, integer. It will be indicating that this array list is capable of holding only the integer values. It cannot hold a string value in it. So we are strictly writing in our code, a strict data type is declared when object is being created that it can only hold the integer value. It is not supposed to hold any string. So array list integer, which is a generic data type, then object name, and again it will be written on both the side. Here it can be declared and on the right hand side also it will be again declared. Okay, and when we will put this two values, pass these two values to this object name array list and array list. Here we have put it a generic type and declared that this array list can only hold the integer value. So 101 is a true, a correct value, but hello is not correct value. So this will throw a compilation error when we are going to execute the program. As we know in Java, this execution process is a two-step process. First is conversion of that we can say a source code into a object code, and then that object code into that byte code into a executable code. So this is a three-step process in Java, that execution process. So first step will be true, and then the second step, when the second compilation step, after compilation, successful compilation step, the execution will occur. At that time, it will going to throw an exception that hello is not appropriate data type which this particular array list object is going to hold, because we have strictly mentioned that it will hold only the integer value. So this is the role of generic data type in Java programming. So that's why it is introduced after, I can say it will be introduced after Java 9 or Java 10 version. Okay, and after then it will be strictly being followed. This 7 or 8, after 8 version it will be introduced in Java programming. Now next is the diamond operator. So what is a diamond operator? Okay, so again there will be a problem with generic, but is the problem that we are repeating this data type on both the sides, and what will it will be giving? It will be giving a kind of, we can say, repetition and the line of code will be increasing because of this repetition. So there is no need of writing it again. We are saying that this array list to be integer. So it is understood that the array list will be holding only the integer value. So for removing this problem, another advanced feature which is known as a diamond operator is being used in Java. Okay, what is the role of this diamond operator? Like this, we are declaring this string to be double type. So it will be giving our repetition in the program. For doing, for removing this, what we are doing, we just declaring the data type once in the program. Okay, that my list object is holding the string data type. And what we are putting, we are not writing over here string, but we are putting simply these arrows. So these arrows are known as diamond operator. the empty, the blank ones, not this filled one. This is a generic data type and this is your diamond operator. In order to reduce redundancy in the programming. What is redundancy? Means the repetition of code again and again in your program. As in this previous one we are doing. String is already mentioned, so why there is need of again declaring that array list is having only holding the string types. So removing that right hand side concept, what we are doing, we are just inserting a diamond operator that is already understood that it will be holding a string value. That is the role of diamond operator, which will be introduced after Java 7 version in Java programming. Now next is local variable type inference. So as we all know, we have a primitive data types, we have generic data types in Java, like integer we have a float, we have a double. One advanced data type is introduced in Java programming language, which is named as var. Now what is the role of this var? This is the keyword var, which is used for this local variable type inference. But this data type is having certain restriction and certain rules to be used in the Java programming language. But the purpose to introduce is that, like integer can hold only the integer value, double can hold only the decimal values, and float can also hold the decimal value, string can hold the string of characteristics. But what about to create a such new data type which can hold all of these? So such kind of concept is introduced in Java, advanced Java, where data type is capable of holding every type of data type inside it. But the rule is it can be declared only inside a particular, we can say, block. It can be declared only inside a function, inside a loop, okay, inside some static block. So its area of usage is totally limited. It cannot be declared globally, but it can be declared only locally inside certain block. So there is a restriction for using this data type, local variable type inference in Java program. So like let's have a look at this example. Here I have declared this name variable to be a string holding welcome to AKGEC, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. So we know that this name variable is now of type string. What will happen if I write this name to be var? So this name will be capable of holding any kind of data inside it, dependent upon the value which is assigned to it. Okay, if I am sending a string to name, then it will be holding a string. If I am putting an integer value like this, var name equals to 24, then the name will be capable of holding the integer value. So that is a role of using variable type inference in Java programming. I hope you like my lectures. Thank you and Jai Hind.